Okay, you have to hear this story. We're talking about a puddle of muddy water, a baseball bat, and a series of arrests that involve the in-laws of a very famous cricketer. It's a shocking story out of Mumbai, and it all starts with something that happens every single day.
I mean, that's the real question here, isn't it? How does something so minor, so insignificant, spiral so completely out of control? We're going to trace every step of this, from that first splash to the courtroom, to figure out what on earth happened here.
So here's how we're going to break this all down. First, we'll look at that initial splash and the argument that followed. Then, we'll see exactly how this thing blew up into a full-blown attack. After that, we'll cover the really serious injuries, unpack the legal mess with its competing claims, and finally, we'll get you right up to speed on where this case stands today.
All right, let's go right back to the beginning. Picture a street in Mumbai's Byculla area. It's a totally normal scene, the kind of thing you'd see anywhere, especially when there's been some rain.
And this is it. This is the spark. A family is in their car, they drive through some water, and it splashes onto two guys on the side of the road. A minor annoyance, right? Something you'd probably just grumble about and forget. But what happened next? Well, that changed everything.
So, according to the family in the car, they did what you'd hope anyone would do. They stopped. They apologized. But one of the men who got splashed, Shoaib, apparently wasn't having it. Instead of accepting the apology, he allegedly took a stick and just smashed their car's windshield, right then and there.
So you've got a smashed windshield, a crazy escalation for sure. But believe me, it did not stop there, not even close. Let's look at how this went from bad to so much worse.
This whole thing just went off the rails, and it happened fast. So after the windshield was shattered, the family figured, okay, that's it, we're going to the police. But as they get out of their car to do that, a group of 8 or 9 men just appears, and they're ambushed.
And listen, we are not talking about a simple fistfight that got out of hand. The complaint alleges these guys were armed. They're talking about bamboo sticks and a baseball bat. This suggests this was a deliberate, violent assault. And just to make a terrifying situation even worse, the family says that during the attack, the men were actually making death threats before they finally took off. This just takes the incident to a whole different level of seriousness. You can probably guess, an attack with weapons like that, well, it's gonna have some serious consequences. Let's talk about the real human cost here, the harm that was actually done to these people. So, the first thing that happened after the assault, the family was rushed to JJ Hospital to get treated for their injuries. Now, the charges that were filed include causing grievous hurt. And that's not just some fancy legal phrase, you know? It's a specific term for injuries that are really severe, the kind that can endanger your life or cause permanent damage. It's a big deal. And to give you a real sense of what grievous means, doctors estimate it's going to take a full year for the fractured hand that one of the victims, Salman, suffered to properly heal. A year. From an incident that started with a splash of water. Okay, so with injuries this bad, you know the police are involved. But the legal story here, well, it's not as simple as you might think. It actually involves complaints coming from both sides. So the family's complaint specifically names 4 different people. The charges are obviously serious, and here's a crucial detail. The police report notes that the entire thing was caught on a CCTV camera nearby, which could be huge for the case. And based on that initial complaint and the evidence, police acted fast. They've arrested 3 of the 4 men named in the report. But here's where the story gets more complicated. One of the men who was arrested actually filed a counter-complaint against the family. So now the police have 2 totally different versions of what happened. And while 3 people were arrested based on the family's story, so far no arrests have been made based on this counterclaim. So, with arrests made, counterclaims filed, and a lot of finger-pointing, let's just get a clear picture of who is involved in this mess and what their current legal status is.
So the 3 people who were arrested are Khalid Pathan, who is the father-in-law of former cricketer and MP Yusuf Pathan, Shoaib Khan, his brother-in-law, and another man named Umar Shot Khan. A 4th accused, Shehbaz Pathan, is still at large. And this is a really important point to be clear about. While the accused are his relatives, Yusuf Pathan himself was not there. He is not accused of being involved in this incident in any way. The connection here is through his family. That's it.
And so that brings us back to this question. An incident that started with a splash of muddy water ended with a baseball bat, an injury that will take a year to heal, and people in jail. The courts are going to have to figure out the legal fault here. But it really makes you wonder, right? What is that invisible line between a small everyday annoyance and this kind of explosive violence? And how close do we all come to crossing it?